about the trip to Miami with your husband. It is fantastic. What do you want for a souvenir? The smug look on my sister's face. Who is on a trip with someone she's cheating with, comes to mind. But I said calmly, without getting angry. I'm busy with my niece's funeral right now. Also, my husband is right beside me. What? My words turned her pale, and what my sister, who literally flew back on a plane, saw was. My name is Wendy. I am a 29-year-old working housewife. Though I say housewife, I only started introducing myself as one recently. In fact, I just got married a few days ago. I ended up marrying Nicholas, a colleague from work. Working together, we developed a good relationship and finally tied the knot. However, being workaholics, we thought a wedding ceremony would be a waste of time and did not have one. Only registering our marriage. We do talk about wanting to take photos in a wedding dress someday. But now, during our busy season, it seemed it was not the right time for us. Why get married during such a busy period? It was all about timing. Despite being busy, the upcoming season will be even busier. Putting off marriage would be inefficient, we thought. Did you think this was a loveless marriage? No, that's not the case at all. We've decided never to mix work with personal life. At work, we are both extremely hardworking, but once we're home, we switch gears. At home, we're a sweet newlywed couple. Even though we didn't have a ceremony, we did visit each other's families to greet them. Both sets of parents accepted our decision not to have a ceremony as a modern. We sent out greeting cards to relatives. That's how smoothly and uneventfully our marriage progressed. Except for one problem. The problem was my sister, Maggie, who is 5 years older than me. She's already married and settled down but was once known as a town slut. Or at least, in my eyes, she was. Worse, she has a habit of taking what belongs to others. In general, the older ones are the ones that should share or give their things to their younger siblings. That's an outdated concept, and our parents never said such things. However, my sister would twist it around, saying, what belongs to the younger sister belongs to the older sister. So she took my boyfriend. My first boyfriend was in middle school. At an age where love is like an extension of playing house, my sister said. Oh, isn't he cute, and took him away. My boyfriend, who had just turned 14, was taken by my sister, who was 19. Unbelievable, but true in my sister's case. And once my ex-boyfriend became obsessed with her, she would dump him. In essence, my sister enjoyed the game of taking things from me. Heartbroken, I didn't have a boyfriend for a while. But in my senior year of high school, I found someone. It was during a busy period with exams, more of a comforting presence than anything special. However, my sister, who graduated from college, came home while we were studying together. Oh, isn't he cute? Repeating the line I'd heard before, she took my boyfriend again. Why could she take them so easily? My sister and I don't look alike. I have an ordinary face like our father. On the other hand, my sister inherited our beautiful grandmother's looks. Even more beautiful than our mother. I hate to admit it, but my sister is truly beautiful. And without any effort in dieting or exercising, she also has a great figure. For me, who can't lose weight despite my best efforts, it's extremely frustrating. And middle and high school students, after all, choose based on looks. When faced with an older, beautiful sister, it's no surprise they fell for her. After experiencing heartbreak twice because of my sister, I chose a university far away. I lived alone while working part-time and eventually found a job, never returning to my hometown. After all, who knows what my sister would do if I returned. Now, she's married and has one child. I'd like to think she wouldn't make a move on my current husband. But one can never be too cautious. People don't change that easily, I believe. When we visited my family to announce our marriage, my sister wasn't there. We sent a wedding announcement card, but received no response from her. I have a bad feeling about this, I muttered. My husband, Nicholas, knowing the situation with me and my sister, laughed and said, "Well, we're far apart and hardly see each other. It should be fine." He's laughing now, but would he be able to maintain that smile if he met my sister? After all, my past boyfriends thought the same, yet they were far from fine when approached by her. But Nicholas is a mature 30-year-old. I'd like to think he wouldn't be swayed just because a pretty woman showed interest. That's what I want to believe. It's not that I don't trust my husband, but my sister is the issue. She laughs as she steals her sister's boyfriends, and then discards them, mocking. I can't believe you dated such a loser. I trust my husband, but not my sister at all. Then, one day, I received a call from my sister. Reluctantly, I answered, thinking it wouldn't be mature to ignore it. Long time no see. I'm surprised you got married. That was her first remark after a long time. I regretted picking it up. But really, such a late marriage. I got married at 27. She's only 2 years earlier than me but takes it as a point of pride. My 5-year-old daughter is rumored to be a genius at kindergarten. She's beautiful like me. Good thing she doesn't resemble her aunt. And then she insults me. Aunt means me, right? After bragging about her seemingly perfect life, she asked, "What's your husband like?" I dreaded this question. So, I responded with, "He's just an ordinary man." How much does he make? Maybe half of what your husband makes? What about his appearance? That's why I said he's ordinary. A plain guy who matches me. Sorry, Nicholas. In my eyes, you're the most handsome man in the world, but I can't let my sister know that. I apologize to my husband in my heart. All so ordinary. That's why I'm saying he's ordinary. What does he do? He works at the same company as me. Oh, what is this, an affair with a superior that led to a shotgun wedding? As if. We both were single and simply fell in love and got married. Fuming over her wild imagination, my sister just laughed off my response, saying, "Well, that's just like you. Hope you'll be happy. It'd be nice if your marriage lasts," and hung up. Her words irritated me all day. A few days later, something unbelievable happened. "Hey, Wendy, shall we have lunch outside today?" my colleague and friend Amy suggested. As we agreed and headed to the company lobby, I heard my name. "Ah. Wendy. There you are. I was just about to have you paged at the reception. Perfect timing." I turned around with a grimace and an odd voice. "Why?" Because my sister, who should be living hours away, was standing right there. "What are you doing here, Maggie? Why are you here?" "Just on a little trip and thought I'd drop by." She talks as if she's just out for some casual shopping. Is a little trip even a thing? Plus, this place isn't a tourist spot at all. While making a suspicious excuse, Maggie looks around and remarks, "Wow, quite the impressive company. I have a bad feeling about this. Please, Nicholas, don't show up now." Just as I thought that, I hear, "Wendy," and dread washes over me. Turning around, I see several colleagues standing there, including my husband. Heading out for lunch now? Yeah. Sort of. And who is this? Pleased to meet you. I'm Wendy's sister, Elle. Saying this, Maggie shakes hands without waiting for my stop. Ah. Hello. Your sister is a great help to us. Oh, what a handsome man. While shaking hands, Maggie shouted, Wendy. How is he just ordinary? What? He's even more handsome than my husband. Please take good care of my sister from now on. Maggie begins to sway her body in a manner that screams, "Target locked on." If you ever have any trouble with my sister, feel free to contact me. Saying this, Maggie passed a note with her contact information. Why did she even prepare such a thing?
Bye.
Now. Leaving us stunned, Maggie walked away. Wow, your sister is quite something. Said by one of the colleagues present, I could only respond with a wry smile. Then, suddenly, I got another call from Maggie. I thought about ignoring it, but after multiple calls, I reluctantly called back. I'm going to Miami soon and decided to leave my daughter at our parents' house. Take care if anything comes up. What? But it's quite far from our place to our parents. Parents are getting old and lack the strength, but it's okay, since a holiday is coming up. Whether it's okay or not should be decided by the receiving end, not the one making the request. As for the Miami trip, just the two of you? I need a break, but still. As I spoke, I heard a man's voice from behind Maggie. Who are you talking to? Oh, is your husband off today? It was a weekday, and I called back during my work break. Maggie is a housewife, but her husband works a regular job. Shouldn't he be at work? Hold on, I'm talking to my sister.
Ah.
Wendy. Hearing that voice, I exclaimed, "Hey." What? Maggie, who are you with? Don't tell me. Oh, just bumped into your husband here. We're in-laws, after all, no big deal. What are you talking about? Anyway, take care. Ignoring my voice, Maggie hung up the phone. Unbelievable. My shout echoed in the break room. Later, I learned that my niece had been sent from our parents' home. Maggie had told our parents she was going on a trip to Miami with a friend. It seems the trip was timed with her husband's long business trip. Which is why my niece was left at our parents' home. A cheating trip, seriously? My low murmur made my mom tilt her head in confusion. But I just shook my head as if it was nothing. As mad as I am at Maggie, my niece is innocent, so here I am at my parents' home. Taking care of my adorable niece on my day off. Aunt Wendy, look. Isn't it cute? It really is, you've drawn it so nicely. My niece, Christina, shows me her drawing of her favorite hamster with innocence. I praise her, and she smiles happily. Indeed, my niece is very cute and will surely grow up to be a beauty. I must protect her pure heart from becoming like Maggie. I clench my fist with determination. However, the situation quickly changes. Suddenly, I hear a scream from my niece, causing a commotion in the house. On the next day, which was also a day off and I was still at my parents' home. I was busy moving around when Maggie called. Despite being busy, thinking Maggie might be worried about her daughter. I answered, only to hear her carefree voice, making me want to hang up immediately. I'm busy now, what is it? Oh, I just wanted to tell you that Miami is too amazing.
Ah.
Is that so? I'm hanging up. Wait. Guess who's with me right now? A friend, right? Right. So, what's your husband doing now? Nicholas? What about him? He's not there, right? Must be away, huh? Well, yes. Irritated by Maggie's insinuating tone, I take a deep breath to patiently deal with her. What do you want? You're on the phone again? Suddenly, I hear another man's voice over the phone, and Maggie laughs in response. Hold on, Nicholas. Oh. Did you hear that voice? Thinking she did it on purpose, I respond, I didn't hear anything. It's just too troublesome to engage further. Oh, that's too bad. Well, you probably did hear but pretended not to, right? Sorry for being the only happy one here. Listen, I'm really busy. Can we talk later? Don't be like that, it'll be quick. So, about the trip to Miami with your husband, it is fantastic. She dares to say it outright. But my heart doesn't rage. I remain very calm about it. Thinking I'm silent because I'm disturbed, Maggie continues without waiting for my reply. So, I'm bringing back souvenirs. Someone coming with me will bring them over, so let's enjoy it together. She seems not to bother hiding it anymore. Oh, by the way, what do you want for a souvenir? Something sweet? Listen. Unable to tolerate it anymore, I say. We're in the middle of Christina's funeral right now. What? Her response came belatedly to my words. Didn't you hear? Your daughter, Christina, is having her funeral right now. What? What are you talking about? Stop joking. I would never joke about life and death. Besides, taking a moment, I looked up at the person standing beside me and said, I don't know what your intentions are, but my husband is right here. What? Over the phone, I could hear Maggie panicking. What do you mean by that? But I ignored her and hung up. My husband, Nicholas, chuckled wryly at my snorting dismissal. A few hours later. Christina. Someone burst into the house, screaming loudly. Needless to say, it was my sister. It seems she does have a maternal side after all. She must have taken the first flight back. My sister, looking frantic, burst into the living room where we were relaxing. What do you mean Christina's funeral? Just as she screamed and entered, her eyes widened in shock. Then, a small voice called out to her, Mommy? Christina. What do you mean? You said a funeral. Tears welled up in my niece's eyes again. Just when she had stopped crying, she must have remembered and started feeling sad again. Mommy, it's about Hammy. She pointed to the empty hamster cage and then handed my sister a small box. It contained the ashes of the hamster. Huh? Wait, what? Looking at me for an explanation, I said. Christina's beloved hamster passed away suddenly yesterday. It was old, so it was its time. You said Christina's funeral. That. I meant to say Christina's beloved hamster's funeral. Did that not come across? How could that possibly come across? My sister's scream echoed throughout the house. Ignoring that, I turned to the man who came with her. And who might this be? Pointing to the man, my sister, who had slumped to the floor in disbelief, half angrily said, What do you mean who? That's your husband. Why am I being scolded? Like I said earlier, my husband is right here. Enough with your jokes. My sister, now glaring at me, finally turned her gaze to the man sitting next to me. Who is that? The very ordinary-looking man. Rude much. This is my husband, Nicholas. What? My sister's eyes widened in shock, and my husband, with a wry smile, bowed his head, saying, Hello, I'm Wendy's husband. Then, who's this Nicholas? A different person with the same name, Nicholas.
What?
Yes, the man standing next to my sister by coincidence, has the same name Nicholas. And both my husband and I know him well. But you said at work this man was your husband. I never said that. That Nicholas is a friend from high school who happened to join the same company. We became close because we shared the same name. Then, my friend Nicholas introduced me to my now husband Nicholas. And we started dating and got married. I don't understand. What's even happening? The one who doesn't get it is me. You show up at the office out of nowhere. Then ignore my husband Nicholas to give your number to my friend Nicholas. And Nicholas, being the ladies' man he's always been, goes. Your sister has been a great help. Really, everyone was just stunned that day. My sister was left speechless by my words. Yes, on that day when my sister made an unexpected visit to the office, I happened to run into several male colleagues, including my friend Nicholas and my husband Nicholas, as I was about to go out for lunch. It seems my sister only has eyes for handsome men. She was fixated on my friend Nicholas, completely overlooking my ordinary husband who blends into the crowd. But he was calling you when out, right? Well, yeah. We've been friends since high school. I call him Nick too. Nick? It's confusing with my husband Nicholas around. I prefer to call my husband by his full name. I smiled sweetly, and then my sister glared at my friend Nick. And why didn't you correct her? I asked you, why did you marry such an ordinary sister? Well, I didn't deny it, but I didn't affirm it either. I just said, Maggie is more attractive than Wendy, that's all. My friend Nicholas suggested ending their friendship. My sister's face went from red to pale, busy with her emotions. Nick, that was wrong of you, getting involved with a married woman. My husband spoke with a hint of anger. But Nick just shrugged helplessly. Well, she said she was divorced and asked to officially date me. I thought it was just for fun. What did you say? My sister turned bright red at Nick's words. You were just playing with me. Then a man's voice spoke up. So, you were serious with him? Of course, I was. I even divorced. Wait, what? The voice came not from my husband or friend but from behind, turning slowly towards the door leading into the living room. My sister's eyes widened in shock. You? Why are you here? Weren't you on a business trip? The client had a change of plans, so it ended early. Came home to find nobody there, which surprised me. Was going to call you but got a call from Wendy saying you were here. What's this about a divorce? That was just a joke. My sister stood there, dumbfounded, still slumped on the floor as my friend Nicholas spoke up. What do you mean? You're not divorced? So you were just playing with me too? You're in no position to blame me, that's ridiculous. What did you say? I have no use for a woman who lies about something as serious as divorce. My friend Nick deeply apologized to Maggie's husband. I'm very sorry for what happened, not knowing isn't an excuse. I understand money can't fix this, but I'll pay a settlement as compensation. He handed his business card as a contact and left. Wait, Nicholas. I was serious about you. As she tried to follow him, her husband's cold voice stopped her. She turned to see him looking at her with equally cold eyes. Wait, that was just a little joke. I'm tired of your lies. What? All those lies about watching the kid while I was on business trips and going out with a friend were just that, lies. And the lie about us being divorced. Well, that was because. But it's sad that you turned into a liar. What? Maggie looked at her husband, confused, as he nodded as if agreeing with something to himself. So, let's get a divorce. That way, what you said won't be a lie anymore. What? Well, we got divorced, we'll change to a we are getting divorced. Which is a slight difference, but within acceptable margins. Wait, just wait. I won't wait. I'll be claiming custody of Christina and raising her myself. I'll also expect child support from you. Wait, please. No waiting. We'll communicate through lawyers from now on. Christina, we're going home. Saying that, he reached out his hand to Christina, who looked confused. Are we going home? Yes. He nodded. Wait. Are you trying to take my daughter away from her mother? Maggie screamed, thinking she could leverage her child somehow. Her husband paused for a moment, then looked at Christina. Christina, will you be sad without mommy? Christina immediately responded, no, I won't be sad. What? Christina, you're okay, without mommy. Christina looked at flustered Maggie. Because mommy, when daddy isn't home, you're always out. You tell me to watch TV and leave, and you come back late at night. Dinner is always microwaved frozen food. And you make me take a bath alone even though I'm scared. Maggie, what the? Everything was news to him. He glared at Maggie with fury. What? It's your fault for dumping childcare on me. You said you'd be a proud stay-at-home mom and take care of our child. And on weekends, I mostly took care of her, thinking you were tired. Have you been deceiving me all along? Well, that's enough. I'll hear all about your affair from your boyfriend in detail. We'll discuss our future through lawyers. Wait, please. No. Christina, let's go. Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Mommy. As Maggie reached out, Christina simply waved.
Goodbye.
With no hesitation. And Maggie's hand dropped. The door closed mercilessly in front of a defeated Maggie. After discussions, Maggie and her husband divorced. It turned out Maggie had affairs beyond just with friend Nick, leading to a divorce fully blamed on her. My visit to the company and the so-called vacation were indeed for an affair. Friend Nick paid a settlement to Maggie's husband and left the company, saying it was a man's way of taking responsibility. Though it seemed excessive, he mentioned it was about maintaining his honor. Hopefully, this situation might lead my handsome friend, who used to play around a lot, to seek sincere love. As for Maggie, she was told by our parents not to return home until she could pay off her debts. Unable to pay the settlement and child support as a former stay-at-home mom, our parents had to cover for her. My parents probably don't expect the money to come back, but they might be thinking it's the only way to see their granddaughter, Christina, again. After the divorce and having nowhere to live, and unable to return to her parents' home, my sister Maggie contacted me. I knew something was off. There's no way you could marry such a handsome guy. All right, I'll take that as an insult. Don't ever contact me again. After saying that, I hung up the phone. She frantically called back several times, half out of her mind, apologizing. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I won't take your men anymore. I just hung up without saying a word and blocked her number. I don't know what became of my sister after being abandoned by both our parents and me. Someone from the neighborhood who knows my sister said, I thought I saw Maggie, but she looked so haggard, nothing like the beauty she used to be. But I couldn't care less. Whether that was really my sister, I'm not sure, but I probably will never see her again. I'm exhausted. You've had a tough time. As I stretched and cracked my shoulders, Nicholas, with a wry smile, handed me a warm cup of milk. Thank you. Then, I looked at him intently. What's with that look? You're making me blush. No, I was just thinking, what a good man you are. Huh? You're probably the only one who would say that. Well, I think that's just fine. Being the only one who understands your charm is enough for me. With that said and a laugh shared between us, he hugged me. My wife, she's been so troubled by you all this time. You're such a failure. It's hard to believe your sisters. Don't you feel bad for your own sister? Despite it being our first meeting, the brother-in-law seems ready to pounce, accusing me of something I shouldn't be accountable for. Moreover, when he refers to his sister, is he talking about me? How should I persuade this man, who is clearly mistaken about who I am? I am Lucy, 33 years old. I spent my 20s dedicated to my hobbies and work. Just when I was about to get busier with a transfer, my father fell ill. My mother passed away a few years ago, and I haven't been in contact with my sister Sophia, who got married and left home. I couldn't just leave my father, who was worried about me being single, and transfer. I moved near the hospital where my father was admitted, and started visiting him daily before going to work. And after work, I would visit him again. That became my routine. His biggest concern, though unspoken, was the discord between me and my sister Sophia. In fact, despite being the only two siblings, Sophia and I were estranged. No, it was me who cut ties with her. From a young age, Sophia was manipulative and lied as easily as breathing. This continued even through high school and university. I actually got scouted by a top sports school, but I turned it down. She would boast about things like that, even though she never engaged in sports. Sometimes she'd lament, "I won $3 million in the lottery but lost the ticket." And other times, she'd claim, "A homeless man kindly returned the ticket, so I gave him the lottery money." She even once claimed to be dating a celebrity, becoming more cunning with her lies, creating doctored photos that looked like they were traveling together. The photos were crudely made, but as adults, her lies started to have a malicious edge, often causing me harm. I lost a lot due to Sophia's lies. Friends, lovers, jobs, and money. In my early 20s, I broke ties with her and left our hometown. I thought it was still possible to start over. I didn't speak a word to her even when we met for the first time in 10 years at our mother's funeral. Seeing this, our father must have felt sad. When I heard from our father that Sophia got married, I didn't feel happy. After years of being hurt and deceived by her lies, I felt nothing. That's why I didn't resent her for not visiting our hospitalized father, nor did I want her to. However, one day, I was introduced to a man standing with crossed arms in front of the hospital room as Sophia's husband. I heard about Sophia's marriage from our father about 5 years ago. Since he didn't attend our mother's funeral, it was my first time meeting Sophia's husband. "Are you here to visit, father?" Feeling obliged to make conversation with someone who's technically family, I initiated a talk. The brother-in-law responded with vague words like,
"Yeah."
And a well. Suspicious, but considering he's Sophia's husband, I convinced myself and entered our father's room. I brought our father's favorite luxury fruits now that his dietary restrictions were lifted, and wireless earphones to counter his complaints about the loud TV. Seeing me and the brother-in-law together, a combination he's never seen before, our father seemed surprised. His chattiness might have been because he was happy with this unexpected pairing. I didn't feel bad seeing him like that. As visiting hours ended swiftly, I said, "See you tomorrow," and left the room. That's when the brother-in-law, who I thought was silent, finally spoke. However, his words were filled with sarcasm. "So you have money for such things? What does he mean? Is he talking about the fruits? There's no reason for him to say such a thing upon our first meeting. I feel uncomfortable." So the man who married the liar is a sarcastic guy. Isn't it my business what I bring for my father? Though I think it's childish, I can't help but respond sharply. However, the brother-in-law is not to be outdone. "I don't think it's entirely up to you." His words, spoken without looking at me, are quite pointed. Normally, I would walk home. But I don't want this extremely rude brother-in-law to know where I live. I remember hearing from my father that my sister Sophia's house is about a 30-minute train ride away. The station is in the opposite direction. Yet, the brother-in-law keeps walking beside me. What is he thinking? Just as I'm about to hail an approaching taxi, the brother-in-law raises his voice. "Are you trying to run away?" "Huh? Run away? Me? From what?" From me. Why should I have to run from you? Don't I deserve a word? A word? What am I supposed to say to a man I've just met? I think we did introductions in front of the hospital room, and I'm sure I mentioned my name. What more is there to say? You are just as Sophia described. Hearing this, it all makes sense. Knowing my sister Sophia, who lies every time she opens her mouth. She must have fed him some story about me. Ignoring it is the best policy. I don't want anything to do with Sophia again, and I'm tired of being manipulated. As I raise my hand to hail the taxi again, the brother-in-law grabs my arm. How much more trouble do you need to cause? I've reached my limit. Let go of me. What trouble have I caused you? Taking advantage of Sophia's kindness. You're the worst, sister. Explain how Sophia is kind, and how I am the worst. I glare back at the brother-in-law, who is staring intently at me. He sighs heavily, as if making up his mind, and then speaks. The $30,000 you borrowed from your husband, it's time to return it. $30,000 borrowed from a husband. I'm taken aback by this. This lie is far beyond Sophia's usual range. She must have thought I'd never meet her husband, or even if I did, she'd keep lying. I'm sorry, but I'm single. Single. That can't be right. I lent $30,000 to your husband. You know about it, right? Where is this husband of mine? Where? At your house, of course. There is no husband in the house where I live. Because I am single. The brother-in-law looks around bewildered, probably more confused than I am. As evidence of his confusion, he reconfirms, you are Sophia's sister, Lucy, right? Even though we met in front of my father's hospital room and were together during his visit. His doubtful eyes seem to accuse me of lying. I find out on my smartphone that something called a single certificate can be issued at the city office. When I suggest getting it, the brother-in-law's legs wobble as if he's lost his strength. What does this mean? Single. Is there another sister besides you? I shake my head silently, and the brother-in-law collapses to the ground. He mutters something and then, with a start, looks up. What about the Christmas money? Christmas money? To whom? To your children. Didn't I give it to them? Upon my repeated head shake, the brother-in-law insists further. Then, what about the school enrollment gift? You remembered giving the money, right? I shake my head again. Seeing the brother-in-law's face turn pale, I deliver the final blow. I've never been divorced, and I don't have any children, you know? That can't be. This man must also be a victim of my sister Sophia's lies. I can somewhat understand his confusion. When I sit next to him and listen, the me he was told about is far from the real me. Firstly, it seems the sister has always caused trouble, and Sophia had a hard time dealing with her. Whenever the sister caused trouble with friends, Sophia would apologize. And when she caused a major loss at work, Sophia would kneel and apologize. But that's not all. The sister's parents didn't attend her wedding, but Sophia walked her down the aisle instead. This is because Sophia, a kind-hearted person, couldn't abandon her sister, who was disowned by their parents. However, the sister's husband is irresponsible with money, and she ended up having children in the midst of financial hardship. Not just one, but 4 children. Despite never having worked properly. Those children are my nieces and nephews. She didn't want them to experience hardship. Feeling sorry for the unfortunate sister who married such a hopeless man, the couple decided to help. They then started giving Christmas money and school enrollment gifts for all 4 children. 4 non-existent children. Sophia is a housewife, so the money actually came from the brother-in-law sitting in front of me. But then, the sister's husband did something outrageous. He had an affair with the wife of his company's president. The president demanded a settlement of $30,000. If he didn't pay immediately, he would lose his job, despite his meager salary and having 4 children. Without the couple's help, the sister couldn't even make ends meet, let alone pay the hefty settlement. A man irresponsible with money is irresponsible with women too. The sister's situation was so pitiful. Moved by Sophia's lamentations, the brother-in-law finally suggested, "Let's lend them $30,000. That was the story I heard from the brother-in-law. Whose sister are you talking about? I couldn't help but interrupt the brother-in-law as he continued with the story of this unknown to me. Even if he believed Sophia's story, there should be some limits. Continuing to pay without questioning Sophia's story. Just saying, "Let me meet my sister," would have solved it. Then the brother-in-law, as if to justify himself, said this. "That's why I said at your mother's funeral, I'll give her a piece of my mind." But then Sophia said, "I want to send our mother off quietly." So he backed down, believing that. Sophia is a professional at fortifying lies with more lies. Her brain works overtime when her lies are about to be exposed. Having paid Sophia believing her lies, the brother-in-law couldn't stand seeing me. Who brought luxury fruits and wireless earphones for my father? So his resentment was, "You have money for such things, but won't pay me back." I don't know what happened to the brother-in-law who left with his shoulders slumped. I feel sorry for him, but what he does with the truth is up to him. Sophia is beyond hope, deceiving even her own husband. Just as I was thinking this, my father passed away. I was glad I could feed him his favorite fruits one last time. I was prepared, but of course, Sophia came to the funeral. She never visited him, yet she cried bitterly in front of his body. I was disgusted by her act. Seeing the estranged sisters, the relatives whispered among themselves. After the funeral, as Sophia was about to leave quickly, I stopped her. "Sis, don't you have something to say?" Sophia, unaware that her husband had visited me, looked bewildered. As I told her about my conversation with the brother-in-law, she turned pale. Holding my hand tightly, Sophia pleads with me. "Please, go along with the story, okay? We're the only sisters we have, right? Please. If we're supposed to support each other as sisters, why did she tell such lies? You can lie all you want, but don't drag me into it." I say this, but she just sobs and keeps repeating, "Please, please." I don't know why Sophia needed the money. But it certainly can't be for a good reason. Our parents are gone. There's no need for us to meet anymore. Please. Just go along with the story. Otherwise, things will get really bad. What do you mean by really bad? I have children, you know? What if I get divorced? They'll end up without a father. That's your own fault, isn't it? If you don't go along with my story, I'll get divorced. That means it's all your fault. I wonder how this woman with a habit of lying thinks. I can't even have a proper conversation anymore. When I turn my back to leave, she grabs the sleeve of my morning clothes and stops me. Actually, I have a boyfriend I'm seeing behind my husband's back. Her tone is different from her usual lies. This is probably the truth. As I stop but keep my back turned, she must take it as a sign to continue speaking. The $30,000, supposedly loaned to my non-existent husband, was actually paid as compensation to the boyfriend's wife. She didn't want her husband to find out, especially for the sake of the children. How she came up with the compensation was by fabricating that lie. But $30,000 wasn't enough to satisfy the boyfriend's wife, who kept threatening and demanding more money. She even forced our ailing father to take out loans in his name. A loan in our father's name. It's something she would do. I have children, and it was just a moment of weakness. I regret it. Sniffling, she continues. So, I think you should renounce your inheritance. I don't want to burden you anymore, and I'll take over Dad's estate. That will settle everything. Saying she doesn't want to burden me anymore, Sophia breaks down crying. 6 months later, after our father's month memorial service. While I'm sorting through our family home, Sophia asks about the inheritance renunciation. I've already completed the renunciation process. Sophia keeps pressing me. Really? Yes, really. You're being persistent. Oh, great. As she's about to leave triumphantly, her phone rings, and she answers it with a bounce in her voice. I immediately know it's her lover. Hi, my sister has officially renounced the inheritance. Everything's mine now. We can be together, right? It turns out that even the story about paying compensation to the lover's wife was a lie. She left her children with our father and used the $30,000 to go on a lavish trip abroad with her lover. She really is a hopeless case. I was fooled by her lies till the very end. There's no need for me to feel guilty anymore. I confront her. Was all of that a lie? It's too late to say anything now. You've renounced the inheritance. Did you know there's a deadline for inheritance claims? It's been over 3 months, so no matter what you say now, you won't get a penny. Sophia laughs crudely. I decide to call the brother-in-law and tell him the whole story. Oh, are you going to tell my husband? But it's fine, even if I get divorced. After all, I have Dad's inheritance. My sister laughs loudly with a carefree face, smirking at me. Seeing this, I laughed too. Noticing my reaction, Sophia looks puzzled. I'm not naive enough to take her words seriously. I've done my research on Dad and Sophia. I confronted her. Dad was one of the victims of your lies. He paid off your messes several times. How do you think he managed to come up with that money, given his failing health? What? By taking loans. Loans. That means you've inherited his debts too. You'll have to pay them off. There wasn't a huge fortune from Dad to begin with, was there? Too bad, no big reversal with an inheritance for you. Wait, what's that? It's not in my name, I don't need to pay it. Didn't Dad pay it off already? That's ridiculous. You said yourself that there's a 3-month deadline for inheritance procedures, right? You've missed it, so now you have no choice but to pay off the debt. Clean up your own mess. That's so cruel. Oh my God. Sophia collapsed to the floor, sobbing helplessly. Later, I heard the brother-in-law slammed her with divorce papers and demanded compensation from her lover. Then, the affair got exposed to the lover's wife, who also claimed compensation. It would have been fine if they could still be together. But her lover chose his family over Sophia. Now burdened with compensation and Dad's debts, Sophia, post-divorce, found herself unable to see her children and had to live alone. But, it's all her own doing. She deserves the hardships as a consequence of her continuous lies. I have spent my life being manipulated by her. From now on, I will live for myself only. At the funeral, which was supposed to be a somber occasion, Olivia, my detestable sister-in-law, sent a message to my phone. Please take care of the credit card payment, will you? We're family after all, so it's fine, right? She had stolen my credit card and was splurging on a trip with her affair partner. She had no idea of the situation she was in. Olivia, you're going to be wanted by the police. What? No way, I don't believe that. She laughed it off with a snort, but I'll take my time to tell her the truth. I thought, you'll definitely regret what you've done. My name is Maggie Walters, I'm 32 years old. I envisioned a tranquil married life, like a quiet lake. My husband, Nathan, was 3 years older than me, charming like the protagonist of a movie. We met at work where he was always surrounded by people, earning their respect with his sincerity and dedicated work ethic. At home, he was like the sun to me. He always supported me warmly, putting our family first with his kind heart. As a husband, he deeply understood my heart, sharing both joys and sorrows, and had a strong will to overcome them together. His smile was like a lighthouse that brightened my world. His parents too were like a warm family to me. Having lost my father as a child, and with my mother in long-term illness, my in-laws were like my real parents. Becoming a part of this family was a great joy for me, and I was willing to make any effort for them. In my happy marital life, there was just one dark cloud. That was my sister-in-law, Olivia. Our family was in perfect harmony, but she was an exception. Since the day of our wedding, she had shown hostility towards me. Her harassment became a part of my daily life, casting a shadow over my heart. She was like a model in a flashy fashion show, always holding the latest brand bags, saying proudly, "Look. Isn't this new Louis Vuitton cute?" Then she would turn to me and ask with a sense of superiority, "Which brand do you like?" Her words always seemed to look down on me. "You have never received a gift from a man? Really? That's unbelievable." Her insidious behavior gradually corroded my heart. At first, I thought it was jealousy because she felt I had taken her brother. But there was a deeper truth. She despised my mediocrity. As the wife of her high-spec brother, she couldn't stand my existence. My lack of experience with men was also a joke to her. Recently, I've been hassled by guys I don't even like. You wouldn't understand that, would you? Oh, it's a waste even asking. She belittled me like that. However, her harassment escalated day by day. And my peaceful days turned into days of living in her shadow. The monthly dinner hosted by my in-laws was supposed to be a time to deepen family bonds. But, for me, it was a battlefield with Olivia. The dinner always turned into her showtime, where she gleefully talked about her boasts, delicious restaurants, and being hit on in the streets. Her husband, who also attended, was an ordinary and overly kind man, whose kindness only highlighted her sharp personality. When I brought homemade food, she criticized it as terrible, ruining the atmosphere. My husband and in-laws comforted me, but she stubbornly refused to say it was delicious. I thought it was my fault the dinner was ruined. As I was feeling down, she added insult to injury. "Your gloomy mood is making me feel sick." Her attacks were always directed at me, interfering with my life. Her words and actions were a source of stress for me, but as a member of his family, I tried my best to build a harmonious relationship. One day, I finally went shopping after a long while. I thought I ended up buying a lot. But it's fine once in a while, it was also a release from stress. Huh? Is that Olivia? I saw a couple walking ahead of me. From behind, it didn't seem like her husband. What does this mean? They were really close, even crossing their arms. And even a kiss. They dare to do this right in the middle of the street. The two of them definitely looked like lovers, and the word cheating popped into my mind. Could it be that I've stumbled upon a secret of my sister-in-law? Feeling like a detective, I decided to follow her, now walking alone. Maybe it's better not to know. But I saw it, so I just can't help but be curious. Olivia walked confidently toward her destination without looking back. And she arrived at a pawn shop. What could it be? And it was indeed that. She must have gotten a watch from her boyfriend earlier, and now she put it on the counter. I thought, no way, she's selling it immediately. But is this how she's making money? Speaking of which, that boyfriend. I felt like I'd seen him somewhere before. Well, never mind. Olivia is supposed to be a homemaker. I heard she was getting living expenses from her husband. But she was increasing her own money in this way. As these thoughts circled in my mind, Olivia came out of the shop talking on the phone.
Yeah.
Just sold it for $2,000. I thought it would fetch more. What a pity. Well, I'll just get another one from someone else, so it's fine. Oh, I'm going to the store today too. The money is all for that. I felt like I'd heard something I shouldn't have. Thinking it would be better not to get involved any further, I decided to leave the place. And I chose to keep an eye on this matter a bit longer without telling my husband, her brother. A small disturbance occurred in my quiet daily life. Where did it go? My hand kept opening and closing the drawer. The credit card that should have been there was gone. Without a trace, even though I didn't remember using it. I thought, did I leave it in my wallet? Or could it be my husband? To check, I decided to look up the credit card transaction history online. Then, a surprising fact came to light. What, this hotel is? The name of a short-stay hotel behind the station appeared on the screen. Of course, I had never been there. Could it be my husband? But he didn't seem like the type to do such a thing. But the only others who could enter this house are my in-laws who have the spare key. Could it be? No, that can't be right. But thinking about it, it's the most likely possibility. That must be it. I called my in-laws to check. As I thought, the spare key was missing. My mother-in-law was flustered but said, "Don't worry, I have an idea of where it might be. It must be my sister-in-law." I didn't want to believe it, but there was no other explanation. She had entered this room and stole the credit card. But how should I tell my husband this? If she really had the credit card, it would be only a matter of time before she would use it again. I decided to keep the past history as evidence and let her keep using it for a while. But why do bad things always seem to pile up? My mother, who had been ill for many years, passed away. I have few memories with both my father and mother. However, I have fragmented memories of my mother loving me by herself. Though I didn't spend much time with her due to her long hospital stays. Memories of happier days come back to me at times like this. As the only family, I took care of the funeral arrangements. It was a small family funeral, but the days were hectic nonetheless. Then, I received a notification on my phone about the credit card usage. I had set it up to receive alerts every time the card was used. But I never expected it to happen on the day of the funeral. They should have known about it. Although I had asked Olivia and her husband not to attend because it was a small funeral. Yet, she used my card at this timing. Anyway, I checked the usage, and it seemed like she bought cosmetics at some airport. I thought, what? Heathrow Airport, in the UK? Really? But with who? I met her husband just a few days ago, but he hadn't mentioned her trip at all. Could it be a secret from her husband? When I contacted him, it turned out just as I had suspected. Olivia had lied to him and went on an overseas trip with her lover. She had told him, "My mother has fallen ill and I have to take care of her at my parents' home. So I can't come back for a few days." Using someone else's credit card to enjoy a trip with her lover. How low can she get as a human being? Unable to overlook her unbelievable actions any longer, I decided to take action. Since it was certain that Olivia was cheating, I waited for her to return and started investigating, gradually uncovering the reality of her actions. Shockingly, she wasn't just seeing one person. She had 4 simultaneous affairs, switching partners almost daily like changing lunch menus. She's really despicable. I couldn't help but complain about her outrageous behavior. Week after week, she received gifts from someone and sold them at pawn shops. She needed money for visiting nightclubs. I don't know how much she spent, but she seemed to be going to the club nearly every night. Probably, she had fallen for a favorite worker there. Since she was dating and visiting nightclubs every day, evidence quickly accumulated. Now, it was just a matter of deciding when to act. Then, in the city, I ran into someone by chance. That boyfriend of my sister-in-law. Moreover, he was a classmate from my high school. That's why he seemed familiar. I went into a cafe with him and questioned him about his relationship with Olivia. Then, he revealed the full extent of her misdeeds. He showed me the love messages that she had sent him. These were part of her cunning scheme. She always talked about our future together. Plans to build a house, names for our children, dreams for our old age. He also gave me letters and photos she had given him, and tapes with her voice recorded on them. They were filled with her words of love. However, everything was a lie. She told me she needed money to support her family. That's why I gave it to her. He then showed me a list of expensive gifts he had given her. They were a proof of love she had received from him. However, she had sold them at pawn shops to finance her lavish lifestyle. She told me our love was forever. But all that was a lie. Hearing his story, my anger towards Olivia boiled over. She had been exploiting his pure love. He was deeply hurt. I decided to confront Olivia and called her. Olivia, do you know anything about my credit card? Starting with a light jab. Why are you asking me? There's no way I know. Well, that was the expected response. Actually, the spare key I left with the mother-in-law has gone missing. You have it, don't you? I told you, I don't know. No need to lie, I know everything. What do you mean? What do you know? Starting to panic a bit? You used my credit card for a trip. With someone other than your husband. She hesitated, likely thinking about how to respond. How do you know that? Well, it doesn't matter. It's not cheating, it's just dating. Dating? You mean a romantic relationship? No. Just as friends. You might not understand because of your limited experience with men. But I have many male friends. That's how it went. But I don't think this is a matter that can be settled just as friends. Then, why haven't you told your husband? You even lied to go on that trip, right? Well, my mom really is ill. The trip was decided suddenly, so it couldn't be helped. Oh, really? She has an answer for everything. Who knows whether it is true? This type of person will always find an excuse. So it might be effective to confront her with undeniable facts. Is that so? But you are having an affair, aren't you? I've seen it all. Seen what? I saw you walking arm in arm with a man. That was. Does the name Nathan ring a bell? Why? Why would you bring up that name? He's a classmate of mine. I recognized his face, so I decided to talk to him. Perhaps realizing she was in trouble, my sister-in-law suddenly fell silent. Well, good, let's press on. You lied about being single and dated him, right? And you even told him your mother was seriously ill and needed money for treatment. Which he gave you. Nathan's father is a company president. And it was well known at school that Nathan came from money. He's smart and wealthy, but somehow naive about women. It's just too sad that his girlfriend turned out to be my sister-in-law. That's why I told him that she was married. And you were even talking about marriage, weren't you? Isn't that marriage fraud? He's planning to sue you. Sue me. That's. I never said I wanted his money. But you did take money from him. Saying you needed it because your family finances were tight, right? Well, yes, but Olivia began to falter. Has she finally realized the gravity of the situation?
Ah.
And by the way, you've been taking money from others as well, right? What? Why? It doesn't matter how I found out. More importantly, do you realize you could be facing a warrant for your arrest? Warrant. Why would I be? Oh dear, you didn't know? No, it's a lie. What do you mean? She was now more than just unsettled, but she was panicking. People you've conned out of money have apparently filed criminal charges with the police. The police wouldn't get involved over something like that. Oh, but they do when the total damage is significant. Just how much did you con people out of? It's frightening, really. Just from him alone, she took about $300,000. To frequent nightclubs daily, she must have been receiving similar amounts from several people. The total damage must be nearly $1 million. But I don't have that kind of money on hand, so there's no proof. Proof or not, you've been sued. Divorce is next. Divorce? Why would that happen? Oh, you thought your husband wouldn't find out? He knows everything. What? No way. She must be pale and trembling now. I just gave your husband the evidence of your affair. So he'll probably be home soon. Why would you do something like that? Imagining her face contorted with anger and anxiety, I continued. There are things that are okay to do and things that aren't, even among family. I don't plan on forgiving you for stealing and using my credit card without permission. Wait, I'll return the money right away. Please, forgive me. Crying and begging won't help her now. I will never forgive you. You will return everything you took without permission. Following that, my sister-in-law divorced her husband, and after learning the situation, her parents disowned her. Of course, there were also multiple complaints from other men, and she was eventually arrested. The criminal trial led to a non-suspended prison sentence. So she won't be getting out anytime soon. The money she splurged with my credit card was compensated for by her husband as a thanks for the evidence photos I provided. Finally, peace has returned to my surroundings. My husband just got a promotion recently, and his salary increased. Then, a little life came into our world. When we announced this joyful news to his parents, they cried with happiness. As my belly grows day by day, it's lovely, and when I talk to it, I feel a little kick in response. How cute! Look, it responded. My husband leaned his ear against my belly, smiling as he listened to that tiny world. We held hands, laughing as we envisioned a future filled with hope and love. My name is Helen Carter. It happened in our 23rd year of marriage. One day, suddenly, my husband left. What was left was just a piece of letter. And on that letter was just one sentence, "I'm going to live with my lover." I thought it was some kind of joke and waited for my husband to return. But he didn't come home the next morning either. I couldn't reach him, no matter how many times I called. While drowning in the sorrow of being betrayed, 3 years passed. Mom, it's been 3 years since Dad left. He's not coming back. It's better to divorce and start a new life. It was just a few months ago that I finally decided to get a divorce, persuaded by my daughter. And now, I've completed the divorce and am living with a new mindset. However, I received a voicemail on my phone. Hey. I'm coming home tonight. Let me stay. My husband, who I couldn't reach no matter how much I tried to contact him, suddenly called and said he was coming home tonight. Just when I've divorced and sorted out my feelings, what is he thinking? His voice on the voicemail, which I replayed over and over, was just as arrogant and selfish as before. Our marriage had started with an arranged meeting. Worried about my inability to find a lover, my parents registered me with a matchmaking agency. Without my knowledge, they arranged a meeting, and I gave in to their insistence to just meet him. When I met him, he seemed refreshing and capable of leading me. I thought he was dependable. Thinking I could feel secure with him was probably due to my lack of experience. After getting married, I realized he was very selfish. The idea of him leading was a misconception. He just wanted to have things his way. When we had a child, my husband started coming home late and became more absorbed in his work. However, I didn't worry too much about it, thinking it was better he was immersed in work than having an affair. Then, in our 23rd year of marriage, he disappeared. Our daughter, who had just started working after graduating from high school at 22, was heartbroken by her father's sudden absence. I felt the same, not knowing what to do after being suddenly abandoned by my husband. Having not worked since our marriage, I didn't know how I would manage to live. The only consolation was that this betrayal happened after our daughter had grown up. If she had still been a child, I wouldn't have been able to raise her alone. In the absence of my husband, the days spent crying felt eternal and unbearably heavy. I spent a year searching for him every day. I even went to his company to ask if he had shown up for work. But he had quit his job without discussing it with me. Finally, a year passed, and I began to come to terms with his absence and started reflecting on myself. Why was I relying on such a selfish person? Why did I think I loved someone like that? He selfishly cheated, ran off to another woman, and abandoned his family. Wherever he is, whatever he's doing, I don't care anymore. It took a year to reach this point. Looking back, I realize what a waste of time it was. But those 23 years seem even more wasteful. If I had known a day would come when he would leave us, I wouldn't have worked so hard for my husband and family. 2 years later, my daughter got married. We had lived supporting each other as a mother and daughter. She said she couldn't leave me and go. "Mom, let's live together." I was surprised and happy to hear her say that, as I had assumed she would leave the house to live with her husband. I had braced myself to be abandoned again, as that's what being a parent meant. But won't he feel suffocated living with me? It's fine. He was the one who suggested we live together. Fearing being alone, I cried and accepted her offer. At the meeting with her fiancé's parents, both of them were there. I felt sad, wondering why I was the only one alone. But it couldn't be helped. Some people lose their husbands early and live in loneliness. I just happened to lose my husband in a different way. I kept smiling, telling myself this, feeling pathetic. Ideally, both parents should attend their daughter's wedding. But in our case only one parent would attend, and I worried my daughter felt out of place. All this was because of my selfish husband. If he had cared about his family, none of this would have happened. Why did he abandon his family for another woman? As time passes, my anger only grows, though it changes nothing. I couldn't forgive him for making my daughter suffer more than his betrayal. Perhaps that's why I decided to divorce. And yet, now this voicemail. What should I do? Should I try calling him? As I stared at my husband's phone number, I considered calling him. But that number, which I had tried calling so many times without a response. What if it doesn't connect again? What if I'm ignored again? After finally making the big decision to divorce, will my heart be disturbed again? Another part of me says, no. I don't want my life disrupted by that man anymore. Well, if it's something important, he'll surely call again, right? I'm not his wife anymore. There's no need for me to worry. After all, he has his lover to care about. Deciding this, I went to my daughter and told her about the voicemail from her father, George. Jessica just nonchalantly said, huh, as selfish as ever, huh? He can stay if he wants, but where does he think he's going to stay? She was right. The apartment where the three of us used to live was long gone. About 3 hours later, while watching my granddaughter draw on my lap, my phone rang. It rarely does, so I wondered who it could be. The screen showed husband. I thought, I forgot to change the name. I put my granddaughter down and went to my room. Hello? Hey. Where are you right now? Excuse me? Don't play dumb. I told you I'm coming home tonight. Didn't you check your messages? I did, but I thought, hasn't he changed at all? After being missing for 3 years, shouldn't an apology be the first thing? And yet, this is how he starts the conversation. I couldn't help but feel glad we separated. Hey. There's no luggage in the room. What's going on? In the room. Where are you right now? At home, obviously. At our old place? Of course. You're inside the room. Obviously. Stop nagging. Why isn't there any luggage in the room? Answer me. Because I moved. What? Why didn't you tell me about the move? You said you were going to live with your lover and didn't respond to any of my messages. Maybe realizing he had dug his own grave, George just said, and fell silent. It was always like this before. When things didn't go his way, he'd go quiet. How can a conversation happen with someone who stops talking? In the past, I always had to be the one to give in. But now, it's different. If he won't talk, I don't need to either. Just then, I heard my son-in-law's voice saying, "The bath is ready, let's go in." He must be talking to my granddaughter. Huh? Where are you? That's my personal information, I don't need to tell you where I am. What? We're married, it's not personal information. Oh, unfortunately, we're not married anymore. What are you talking about? Did you lose your mind while I was away? No, it's true. You've been missing for 3 years, so I filed for divorce. Why? Because you. Why are you doing things on your own? On my own. Me? That's right. How could you divorce me without consulting me? How was I supposed to consult you? How can I communicate and consult with someone who's unreachable? I couldn't get in touch with you, didn't know where you were. So I endured for 3 years and finally got my feelings in order. That's why I decided to get a divorce. Even so, that's just too selfish of you. Who's the selfish one? You left with just a note saying you're going to live with your lover. Do you know how much your daughter and I suffered because of that? It's only natural to get a divorce. That's why you're so impulsive. I wrote I was going to live with my lover. But I never wrote anything about getting a divorce. Do you really think that excuse is valid? Just saying you're going to live with a lover is shocking enough. Let alone not contacting after that. Anyone would think that means you want a divorce. No, that's not it. Anyway, you're the one who left. Be happy with your lover. Wait. I broke up with her. What? That's why we can start over. Start over? Yes, I broke up with her and came back to you. You should be grateful. Grateful? Are you joking? Why should I be grateful? Don't be ridiculous. I have no intention of starting over with you. Is it because you have a lover? What? How could you even think that? Don't lump me in with you. It's true, isn't it? I heard a young man's voice earlier. But I'm a generous man. Even if you played around with a young man, I'll forgive you this time. You must be lonely running to such a man, but you're just being played, aren't you? How foolish can you be? What did you say? I'm telling you, I'm forgiving you. That voice earlier was my daughter's husband. What? She got married? Yes. So, you're living with your daughter and her husband? Yes, and my granddaughter too. Are you happy? Of course. Being with my adorable granddaughter all the time is the greatest happiness. Why? What? Why do you get to be happy when I've lost everything? What? You chose to leave for another woman, you should be happier. That's not it. What happened, then? Since you're here, why don't you tell me everything in order? Why did you suddenly disappear? What kind of woman fell in love with you? 3 years ago, I was drinking at an izakaya. She was sitting next to me, and we hit it off as we drank together. After several meals together, it got serious. She said she was serious about me. When I tried to go home, she cried and said she wanted to be with me all the time. So you decided to live together with her? Yes, exactly. How old was she? In her late 30s. You were involved with someone so young.
Yeah.
Compared to an old wife, everything was fresh and exciting. When she said she wanted to be with me, how could I feel bad? So, you abandoned your family for a woman more than 20 years younger? Yes, so what? Then you should have stayed with her if you liked her that much. No, she found another man. Oh, what a shame. He was younger and stronger than me. I never thought she would leave me. She took everything and ran off. Her letter just said, I found someone I love. I couldn't believe it. So, I waited for days, but she never came back. Not after 1 month, not even after 2. Finally, after 3 months, I realized waiting was useless. Birds of a feather, huh? What do you mean? Leaving just a piece of letter.
Yeah.
I thought we were alike. But waiting for someone who ran away is useless. That's when I thought of you. I figured you must be waiting for me. You really are delusional. It took me a year to get over you. You mean you waited a year for me? A wishful thinking. It took a year to finally move on. Hey, you wouldn't abandon me too, right? I didn't abandon you, I divorced you because you left. I have nowhere to live. I lost my job, I don't know what to do. You chose that yourself, right? You resigned. Well, I did choose to quit. For that woman, right? Yes, I loved her. I thought we'd live together somewhere else. The job was in the way. You reap what you sow. What are you saying? Do you think you did nothing wrong? What? You neglected me. Even when I was late because of work, you didn't care. You never noticed I was cheating. You were always focused on the child. That's why I went to another woman. It's all your fault. Is that so? Well, then there's no need to be with such a terrible woman. Good thing we divorced. No, that's not it. I realized you're the best after all. Too late for realizations. We're already divorced. If we're divorced, we can just remarry. Don't be ridiculous. I have no intention of getting back together with you. Not even a hair's breadth. Why? I have nowhere to live. Find a place to live. It's easier to just live with you. I refuse. I won't let a stranger like you into my house. Mom, dinner's ready. Oh, my daughter is calling. Dinner is ready, so I'm hanging up. Can we talk again after dinner? No, we watch TV with the family after dinner. It's more fun watching TV with my granddaughter than alone. What? It's unfair that you're the only one happy. I ignored George's yelling and hung up the phone. When I went to the living room and told my daughter about George, She showed obvious anger but had nothing to say. However, the next day, George contacted my daughter, Jessica. Jessica, it's your dad. Who did you say? It's your dad. I heard you got married. Congratulations. Are you happy? I heard from your mom you have a granddaughter. Let me see my grandchild's face. Are you joking? What? To my husband, I said you disappeared. What are you planning by showing up now? Well, you have a mistress, right? Just stay happy with her. I broke up with her. Young mistresses are fickle, you know. How old was she? In her late 30s.
Ew.
That's creepy. What? Falling for such a young woman and even quitting your job, aren't you stupid? Just don't come here, I don't want to see you. Hey, we're still family, aren't we? Mom and you are divorced, didn't she tell you?
Yeah.
I heard. Then you should understand. You and I are now strangers. And my father disappeared 3 years ago. Do you know how hard it was when my father abandoned me? And all for a woman in her late 30s. Just stop being so ridiculous. I couldn't help it. She didn't want to leave me. Oh, how nice for you. Thanks to that, Mom suffered alone. She looked for you everywhere, walked around every day. Went to your company only to find out you had quit. Do you understand how much that shocked her? I kind of. I was a mess too. Even when I found someone I liked. I was scared I'd be abandoned again. And that's all your fault. Well, I had a hard time too. You chose that path yourself. We had to walk the path we didn't choose. I should have had both my parents at my wedding, but Mom had to attend alone. And I felt out of place. But you're happy now, aren't you? Running off to a young woman and leaving your family is just irresponsible. The only good thing was that I was an adult. If not, Mom would have had to bear all the hardships alone. I waited until you were an adult. I thought about it, you know. Someone who thinks wouldn't abandon their family. Stop making excuses. Well, I do feel bad about it. It's too late now. Hey, I want to apologize. Tell me your address. Just because you apologize now, it doesn't change anything. I never once forgot about you, you know. Then please forget me. I've long since forgotten about you. That's cold-hearted, isn't it? You made it that way, didn't you? So, it was that woman who made you like this. That woman? Your mother. She must have spoken ill of me. That's why you're saying such things. You weren't like this before. Jessica thought for a moment after hearing George's words. Where are you living now? Huh? In the apartment we used to live in. Did you rent it? No, I don't have the money for that. I still had the key. So I just picked up some cardboard boxes and have been staying there. It's better than outside in the cold. So, no one has moved in there since Mom moved out? Seems like it. Lucky, huh? Is it really empty? There's nothing there, so it must be empty. Why? That means it's property of the real estate agency.
Yeah.
Aren't you worried about getting in trouble? The real estate people hardly ever come to check. I should be okay. You're not going to leave? I can't, really. That's why I want to live with you. You understand, right? So, you'll stay there for a while?
Yeah.
Unless you let me stay with you. I can't really sleep outside, it's too cold. But it's cold here too. A blanket would help, the cardboard alone is not enough. You're really still there?
Yeah.
I have no other choice. That's why I want to stay at your place. Just give me your address and I'll come over. What's with hanging up suddenly? Such lack of manners. A few days later, I received a call from a lawyer. Apparently, George had been arrested for illegal trespassing. He had entered the apartment we used to live in without permission, and was sleeping on cardboard boxes surrounded by empty cans and a terrible smell. The real estate agency noticed the lights on in the supposedly empty apartment and found George there, leading to his arrest. George requested a public defender and asked for me and Jessica to visit him. So, Jessica and I went to the police station. Seeing George for the first time in 3 years, he looked much thinner. Why did you end up like this? Well, the real estate people suddenly showed up. You knew we didn't live there anymore. So you should have known you couldn't enter that apartment. But I had nowhere else to stay, and it's too cold outside. There are cheap inns, aren't there? It's a waste of money. But you can afford beer, huh? Alcohol is the best way to stay warm. You'll freeze to death. It's not cold enough to freeze to death. And why were we called here? You're a stranger to us now. Don't say that. You're the only ones I can rely on. When we were in trouble, you were nowhere to be found. You're incredibly selfish. But if you had let me stay with you, none of this would have happened. I asked many times. Asked? When? You demanded to stay, but never politely asked. Why should I have to say such things? I worked hard for both of you all my life. Why should I have to bow down now? Is that so? Well, then. Wait. Don't be hasty. If we lived together, I could have thought of something. What would you have thought of? Finding another woman? Not that. Well, there's no use arguing over what's done. It might be over for you, but not for us. You showed up and disrupted our peace. I'm disturbed too. It's not just you. How are you disturbed? Did we do that to you, or did you bring it upon yourself? Enough. I didn't call you to argue. I'm not here to argue. Arguing with a stranger is pointless. So, Dad, why did you call us here? Well, actually, the real estate agency said they would consider a settlement. Good for you. But if it's just small talk, we don't need to hear it. Let's go, Mom. No, wait. Listen to me. I'm busy. I'm going shopping with Mom for my daughter's clothes. We don't have time to play with you. Play? Listen, I'll just say it. I need you to cover the settlement money. Do you understand what he's saying, Mom? I don't get it. Why would we lend money to a stranger like George? I wouldn't lend it either. Why should we lend money to someone who doesn't work properly? Don't be like that. If I can pay the settlement, they'll drop the case. How much is it? $2,000. And if you don't pay? It'll go to court. And if it goes to court? Probably a fine or jail time. How much would the fine be? Less than $1,000, they said. So, going to court is cheaper, huh? I don't have even that $1,000. The agency, considering my situation, said $2,000 would be enough. Still double the fine, huh?
Yeah.
So can you lend me $2,000? I have a child, you know. I need money for my child, not for you. Is that so? Helen, what about you? You can afford it, right? Are you joking? After being abandoned by you, how do you think I've been living? I don't have extra money like that. Don't say that, just borrow it from somewhere for me. Why should I borrow money for you? I'd have to repay the debt, right? That's impossible. I'll repay it once I'm out. Then why don't you ask your young lover? I told you, I broke up with her. But she's closer to you than your ex-wife, isn't she? After all, we're strangers now. Don't say that, I'm begging you. Helen. No chance. Leaving the visitation room. My daughter and I were followed by the desperate calls of my ex-husband. Despite his arrogance and selfishness, and neglecting his family, he was eventually abandoned by his mistress too. Then I wondered why the real estate agency showed up so timely. My daughter grinned and said to me, "A little revenge like this won't hurt, right?" Turns out, she had contacted the real estate agency. George, after facing trial, received a 3-year sentence with a public defender who showed little enthusiasm. He served his sentence without incident and was released. But freedom was far from what he expected. At 58 years old, with a criminal record, he couldn't find a job. Unable to afford an apartment, he ended up as a homeless. George kept contacting me, wanting to get back together. I've been released. I've truly changed. Let's start over. Marry me again, please. There's no love in this, right? Love doesn't matter. We were married before, that's enough, isn't it? I have no intention of entering a loveless marriage. What's gotten into you? As a wife, you should help your struggling husband. That led me to ultimately block him. After that, he lived a transient life, doing day labor, and eventually became homeless. Meanwhile, I lived with my daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter, enjoying a life filled with smiles and happiness.